Alright, I think I'm recording this. We'll see in a minute. So, Tracy asked about a perspective that used a lot of Photoshop and some tricks that included transforming textures into perspective. So let's try to contrive a section here. I'm gonna cut through this building. Let's hide view. I think that will do. Let's change the visibility of the, I don't need the, whoops. We don't need to see the section planes. Now, the view referenced, that Tracy referenced, relied on what's called section fill. Right? So I haven't got it on here, but if I wanted to see this, let me see if I can pull up that drawing and also make sure I'm recording. VDI is different every time. Not disconnect. Not full screen. Let's see if I'm recording. I'm going to pause this. Okay, so I am recording this window, so I'm going to make it full screen again. Within this window. Okay. And this model is in my handouts as always. So the section fill, if I turn that on, makes, you know, those, the planes that I'm cutting through, there's some other stuff here that probably wants to be filled solid, like that floor. So this wasn't modeled originally in SketchUp, but you know, let's just say, let's imagine it was. All right. So we have a perspective view of, you know, whatever our model here. Now, if I wanted let's see, the image that Tracy presented is this one. Can everybody see that? All right. It's probably like a two-point perspective. It's almost perfectly orthogonal up and down, but the vanishing point, or one of the vanishing points, is straight back, and the other is way far over to the left. And I'm going to try to recreate a black outline with that orange poche. Okay. Camera. Two-point perspective. Two-point perspectives. Right, so one vanishing point is straight back there. And the other a little more severe off to my right. And let's save this view. Let's save this scene. And we'll call it Tracy perspective. Tracy style perspective. Preferences. in SketchUp or access from window preferences. So you'll find under drawing, workspace, forget. Let's see, I'll find it in a second. Edit. Window should be under preferences. Okay, I'm going to pause this while I look for that so I don't waste your time. So the color of the section fill can be set in, expand the styles panel, right? And in order to modify the active style, or whatever's current right now, you go to this Edit tab, and you can see that listed here on the modeling settings, right? There are different aspects. Here I can set my edge preferences. Here the front, foreground, and background color. The background generally, right? We'll return to that. And then here is where I can set my section line width. Say I want to emphasize that, make that like a 5. If I change it to 5, you see how that amplifies that? Then the section fill, if I wanted to use what apparently was used in that picture, I could actually select it. But let's see. If I bring in this image, better yet, I'm going to save that image somewhere where I can find it. And let's copy it. Assuming I can get to it somehow. Alright, for now, what have I done? Back to SketchUp. I'm just going to select an orange color. Right, so that set the section fill. It was a little more reddish than that. Now these planes that are open, because this wasn't modeled in SketchUp, I have a separate and the floor wasn't solid and SketchUp isn't cutting through it. I would have to remodel that floor and cut through it. Well, that's why I suggested maybe, show me your your model. So the section line width is pretty heavy here. If I set it back to 1, well, no, that doesn't help us. Let's set it back to 3. A little bit too heavy. So that creates, you know, something like we're seeing here, right? For what I'm cutting through in section. Probably don't want that minivan in section, right? Now, so what else am I looking at here? I'm looking at a lot of realistic trees, some textures that are in perspective on the floors, some textures displayed orthogonally on the walls. Let's see if I can display these screens side by side. No, why should I be able to do that? Let's go to the site. Oops. So, you know, basically there's no easy quick and dirty way to create a rendering like that, but you learn at some point to recognize that it's a lot of Photoshop. LTL Architects. We go to that side. Projects. I think it was a commercial project that we saw. And there it is, some office building. Okay, and I'll save that image locally. And just minimize that. So some of the other things that you can set in your, as part of your style defaults here that are adjustable, are the background color, foreground and background color, background settings. If I don't want the sky to appear, I can turn that off. Right? But then I would lose my horizon line. Right? So let's begin by exporting. Now that may be useful. Background. Let's set it to RGB 0, 0, 0, 0. Now, 256, 255 will give me white because it's additive color, right? RGB. So that gives me white. So that's not going to interfere. And let's update this scene. Tracy style perspective. I'm just going to tell SketchUp to update everything about that scene. Save it as a new style. Why not? And I'm going to save this as Tracy somebody in my archive handouts folder, so you guys can find that there. Now what I want to do, oh, also I ought to say that, let's look at this image again. And what's going on in this image that we should know about? There appears to be what? Some source of natural light, and it appears to come from the right side of the model. Right? A little tricky when you're working with a sectional view and you have this sort of like diffuse, well, it's directional light, but you know, it's clearly coming from one side. So let's see if we can do something. What happened to SketchUp? I'm getting an error that my license has expired. That can't be correct. Hopefully it's just off to one side. This is disconnected. Let's try to reconnect. I don't know why that's happening. Alright, looks like I'm back somehow. So it had just disconnected the session. So my light, yeah, in fact my light is coming from the right side of my model right now. So I'm just going to leave that in there. So the source of natural light. So let us now export a 2D graphic. This wants to be an image, and I like to use ping image because it is the least amount of loss. Let's look at our options. That's a pretty healthy pixel dimension view. Okay, and we're going to export that drawing. Now what I want to do is start Photoshop. Make sure I'm using VDI, right? Yeah. Start Photoshop. I guess we're on version 2019. Can I drop the, yeah, I guess I can drag it if I have that open. Remember, I put it in the root folder of my archive, so I thought I did. Maybe in Documents? Oh, there it is. So I drag that into Photoshop, right? The paste into command would allow me to use a custom image for the background. So remember what we learned in IDC about selecting in Photoshop. I'm going to use a Polygonal Lasso, and remember now my vanishing point, or my horizon, or the line, the place where my lines converge, disappear behind those guides there, right? So see if you follow what I'm going to try to do here. I'm basically going to draw as if that were my horizon. I'm really roughly approximating this now. Those lines aren't meeting. Another way to do this is probably to just use the quick select tool, because that background is mostly white. But I'm doing this manually so that you can kind of understand what it is that we're after here. So that is the area into which I want to draw my background, sky, whatever, the city. So let's save that selection. Select, save, select. I don't know how long I've been recording, but sky, horizon. That selection, remember, in channels you can see it quickly by selecting the mask that was created as a result of saving that selection. And you go back to the image. It's usually a good idea. Come on, Photoshop. Not sure why that isn't responding. Create a layer. For drawing the sky. There it is. Sky background. What did I have in that picture? We had some sky and some buildings. We could get Entourage from this BRA's website and get the 3D buildings for the city. I could, for purposes of what we're doing right now, to save some time, I'm just going to go to and get a city city skyline image. Now, use your head when you're selecting these. A bird's eye view like this one is probably not appropriate, because our eye is at near ground level. So maybe something like that. This one's prettier. Let's make believe we're in Dubai. Why not? Tall, modern tall buildings, free images. We like free. Let's save. Save this image. My working folder. Let's open it in Photoshop. I don't know what's... Photoshop is not responding just now. I'm not certain why. I'm toggling in and out of full screen so that to try to get back what I was working on. Appears to be gone again, appears to have logged me out. I'm going to pause this and just save this. I'll try one more time. I don't know what's happened here, so I'll pause this and we'll send a note to Service Desk and see if they can help us.